The great chamber of the Galactic Assembly was the largest room Tay had ever seen. It stretched upward like a metal cathedral, with thousands of seats arranged in circles that rose toward a distant ceiling. Each seat belonged to a different species. Each species had a voice. Each voice mattered except for humanity's. Tay sat in the back row, in the single chair given to Earth's delegation. He had sat in this chair for 3 years now. He had watched countless debates. He had seen empires argue over trade routes and minor species beg for help. He had seen votes pass and fail. And through it all, he had remained silent. That was humanity's role. To watch, to learn, to wait. Beside him sat Hannah, his assistant. She was younger than him by 5 years, but her eyes were older. She had served in the military before joining the diplomatic corps. She knew what it felt like to act, to move, to do something. Sitting in this chair, day after day, was slowly killing her spirit. "They're talking about Velos 4 again," she whispered. Tay nodded. He had been listening. At the center of the chamber, a small creature stood at the speaking platform. It was a Velosian, a species of gentle farmers who had colonized a quiet world at the edge of known space. The Velosian was trembling. Its forearms were clasped together in what Tay had learned was a gesture of desperate pleading. "Please," the Velosian said. Its voice was thin and high, translated into 100 languages by the chamber systems. "The Karan Empire has taken our world. They are stripping our soil. They are poisoning our waters. Our children are dying. We have nowhere else to go. Please, someone must help us." The chamber was silent for a moment. Then the voices began. The Tirali delegate spoke first. "We sympathize with Velos 4. However, the Karan Empire is a sovereign power. We cannot interfere in their internal affairs." The Minari delegate agreed. "Our trade relationships with the Karan are essential to our economy. We cannot risk them for one small world." The Osik delegate added, "War is not the answer. Diplomacy must be given time to work." One by one, the great powers of the galaxy offered their sympathy. One by one, they explained why they could not act. The Velosian listened to each excuse. Its trembling grew worse. Hannah's hands tightened on her armrests. "This is wrong," she said quietly. "They're just going to let those people die." "Yes," Tay said. His voice was calm, but something flickered in his eyes. "They are, and we're just going to sit here? Like we always do?" Tay did not answer. The debate continued for another hour. More species spoke. More concerns were raised. More excuses were made. Finally, the assembly called for a vote. All in favor of intervention on Velos 4. Silence. Not a single delegate raised their hand. All opposed? Hundreds of hands rose across the chamber. Motion failed. The assembly will take no action on Velos 4. The Velosian stood frozen at the platform. For a long moment, it did not move. Then, slowly, it walked back to its seat. Its forearms hung limp at its sides. It did not look up. Tay watched it go. He had seen this scene before. Different species, different worlds, different crises. But always the same result. The galaxy was very good at watching. It was very bad at acting. Ambassador Yuna found them after the session ended. She was an old woman now, with gray hair and tired eyes. She had served Earth for 30 years. She had believed once that patience and diplomacy would earn humanity a place at the table. That belief had cost her everything. "We abstained again," she said. "It was not a question. We had no choice," Tay replied. "We have no voting power. Our voice means nothing here. Then why do we stay?" It was Hannah who answered. "Because someone has to remember. Someone has to watch. Even if we can't act, we can witness." Yuna smiled sadly. "I used to believe that was enough." She looked at the empty chamber. at the seats where the great powers had sat and done nothing. I'm not sure I believe it anymore. That night, Tay sat alone in his small quarters aboard the human station. The room was simple. A bed, a desk, a window that looked out at the stars. He had lived here for 3 years. It had never felt like home. He thought about the Velocian, about its trembling arms, about the way it had walked away, defeated and alone. He thought about all the other species he had watched suffer while the galaxy debated and discussed and ultimately did nothing. 80 years. That was how long humanity had been part of the assembly. 80 years of sitting in the back row. 80 years of watching. 80 years of learning how the galaxy worked. Perhaps it was time to show the galaxy how humanity worked. Tay turned to his console and opened a secure channel. He typed a message, encrypted it, and sent it to a receiver on Earth. The message was short. Wake them up. It's time. He did not know what would happen next. He did not know if anyone would answer. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was done watching. Somewhere across the galaxy, on a dying world called Velos 4, children were crying for help. And somewhere on Earth, people were finally ready to listen. The galaxy had taught humanity patience. Now humanity would teach the galaxy something else. It would teach them what happened when humans stopped watching and started acting. 3 weeks passed. On Velos 4, the Karan Empire continued its work. Giant machines tore into the earth. Factories pumped poison into the rivers. The Velocian people hid in their villages and watched their world die around them. The galaxy watched too. News channels broadcast images of the destruction. Commentators expressed their concerns. Politicians made speeches about the tragedy. But no one did anything. Then a small ship appeared in orbit above VELOS-4. It was called the Dandelion. It was old and battered, with patches of rust on its hull, and an engine that made strange noises when it ran too long. It was a cargo ship, designed to carry grain and medicine to remote colonies. It had no weapons. It had no armor. It was completely harmless. Captain Wu stood on the bridge and looked down at the dying planet below. He was 41 years old, with gray in his hair and lines on his face. He had spent 20 years flying cargo routes through quiet corners of space. He had never been a hero. He had never wanted to be one. But then Tay's message had reached Earth, and people had started talking. And somehow, Wu had found himself here, in orbit above a world full of strangers, about to do something very stupid. "Captain," said Jin, his engineer. She was young, barely 26, with quick hands and sharp eyes. "Koran patrol ships are scanning us. They want to know why we're here." "Tell them the truth," Wu said. "We're delivering humanitarian aid." Jin sent the message. A few minutes later, the response came back. The Koran commander's voice was cold and amused. "One small human ship? With no weapons? You are either very brave or very foolish. What do you think you can accomplish here?" "What do you think you can accomplish here?" Wu picked up the communicator. "We're here to help evacuate civilians. Anyone who wants to leave may board our ship. We will take them to safety." Laughter crackled through the speakers. "You think we will allow this? You think we will let you interfere with our operations?" "I think," Wu said calmly, "that you have 40 warships in orbit. I have one cargo ship. If you want to destroy us, you can do it easily. But I also think that every species in the galaxy is watching right now. And they will see what you do. They will remember." There was a long pause. Then the Karan commander spoke again, and his voice was no longer amused. "You are playing a dangerous game, human." "Maybe," Wu said, "but I'm still playing." He closed the channel and turned to Jin. "Start broadcasting on all open frequencies." Let everyone know we're here. Let everyone know what we're doing." Jin nodded and went to work. Within hours, the message had spread across the galaxy. A single human ship had gone to Velos 4. A single human ship was trying to save civilians while the great powers did nothing. The next day, 2 more human ships arrived. Then 5 more. Then 12. They came from everywhere. Cargo ships like the Dandelion. Personal yachts owned by wealthy families. Old military vessels that had been retired decades ago. Some had weapons. Most did not. None of them had any chance against the Koran fleet, but they came anyway. General Soong watched the growing fleet from his office on Earth. He was 52 years old. A retired soldier who had thought his fighting days were over. But Tay's message had changed everything. Now he spent his days coordinating ships, supplies, and volunteers. A network of ordinary people who had decided that watching was no longer enough. "How many ships do we have now?" he asked his assistant. 217. More are on the way. And the Koran? They're confused. They don't understand why we're doing this. They keep threatening to open fire, but they haven't done it yet. Soong nodded slowly. They're afraid. Not of our ships. Of what it would look like if they destroyed us. The whole galaxy is watching now. If they kill a fleet of unarmed civilians trying to save refugees, they'll never recover from the shame. On Velos 4, the evacuation had begun. Human shuttles landed in Velosian villages and loaded families aboard. Doctors treated the sick. Engineers repaired damaged equipment. Translators helped frightened children understand what was happening. The Koran patrols watched but did not interfere. Their commanders argued among themselves. Some wanted to attack. Others warned that the political cost would be too high. While they debated, more and more Velosians escaped. Captain Wu worked without rest. He flew shuttle after shuttle down to the surface. He carried children in his arms. He held the hands of the dying. He saw things that would stay with him forever. One night, an old Velosian woman grabbed his sleeve as he helped her onto a shuttle. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Why do you help us? We are nothing to you. We have nothing to give you." Wu looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "You don't have to give us anything. That's not why we're here." Then why? He thought about the question. He thought about his life, his small ship, his quiet years of carrying cargo through empty space. He thought about Tay's message and the strange fire it had lit inside him. "Because someone had to," he said finally. "And we decided it might as well be us." The old woman stared at him. Then slowly she began to cry. Not from sadness, from something else. Something she had almost forgotten how to feel. Hope. Across the galaxy. Other species watched the human fleet grow. They saw the Koran hesitate. They saw refugees escape to safety. And they began to ask themselves a question they had never asked before. What would happen if they stopped watching too? The answer was coming. And it would change everything. 2 months after the first human ship arrived at Velos 4, the evacuation was complete. 40,000 Velosian refugees had been carried to safety. The Koran Empire had taken the planet, but they had found it empty. Their victory felt hollow. And across the galaxy, people were talking. They had been a journalist for 15 years. He had covered wars, disasters, and political scandals. He had seen the worst of the galaxy, but he had never seen anything like this. He stood in a small recording studio on a neutral station, far from Koran space. Behind him, screens showed images from Velos 4, human ships in orbit, shuttles landing in burning villages, children being carried to safety by strangers from another world. "This is Day, reporting from Station 12, he said into the camera. 2 months ago, the Galactic Assembly voted to do nothing about Velos 4. The great powers offered their sympathy and went back to their business. But humanity did not. Today, 40,000 Velosian refugees are alive because ordinary humans decided that watching was not enough. They had no army. They had no plan. They just showed up and started helping. And somehow, against all odds, it worked. He paused and looked directly at the camera. The question now is simple. What happens next? Will the galaxy go back to sleep? Or will someone else wake up? His broadcast spread like fire. Within days, it had been viewed billions of times. Species who had never heard of Velosfor now knew the whole story. Species who had voted against intervention now faced angry questions from their own citizens. And in the Galactic Assembly, the great powers were nervous. Ambassador Yuna stood before the chamber. She was old and tired, but her voice was strong. The human delegation has been called here to explain our actions at Velosfor, she said. Very well. I will explain. We saw people dying. We saw no one helping. So we helped. That is all. The Terali delegate rose from his seat. You interfered in the affairs of a sovereign empire. You undermined the authority of this assembly. You acted without permission. Permission? Yuna's eyes were cold. We needed permission to save children from dying? We needed permission to give food to the starving? I did not know compassion required a vote. You have destabilized the region, the Minari delegate said. The Karan Empire is furious. They demand sanctions against humanity. Let them demand. Yuna did not flinch. We did nothing wrong. We broke no laws. We simply did what this assembly refused to do. If that is a crime, then perhaps your laws need changing. The chamber erupted in argument. Species shouted at each other. Old alliances cracked under the pressure. For the first time in decades, the assembly was genuinely divided, and in the back of the chamber, Tay watched it all. Hannah leaned close to him. They're scared, she whispered. They don't know how to handle this. Good, Tay said quietly. Fear is the beginning of change. The vote came 3 hours later. The Karan Empire had demanded sanctions against humanity. Trade restrictions. Travel bans. Diplomatic isolation. All in favor of sanctions? Hands rose across the chamber. The Karan and their allies. Several major powers who feared human influence. It looked like the motion would pass. All opposed? For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, hands began to rise. The Velosians, of course, but also the Osik, the Relani, the Demare. Species who had always stayed neutral. Species who had never taken sides. One by one, they voted against the sanctions. The final count was close. Closer than anyone expected. The motion failed by 17 votes. Humanity had not been punished. The galaxy had chosen. That night, Tay walked through the corridors of the assembly station. He was tired, but could not sleep. Too much had changed. Too much was still changing. He found Nari sitting alone near a window. She was Velosian, one of the refugees his people had saved. She was young, barely 33 by human standards. Her family had died in the mines. She had no one left. You should be resting, Tay said gently. Nari shook her head. I cannot rest. Not yet. There is too much to think about. Tay sat down beside her. Outside the window, stars drifted past in the endless dark. Your people saved us, Nari said. I still do not understand why. We had nothing to offer you. We were strangers. Why did you come? Tay thought about the question for a long time. Because we remember what it feels like to be alone, he said finally. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other. We almost destroyed ourselves more than once. We know what it is to suffer without help. We know what it is to cry out and hear nothing but silence. He looked at her. We did not want anyone else to feel that way. Not if we could stop it. Nari was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "The Corn ambassador spoke to me today. He said your people have made powerful enemies. He said you will regret what you did." Tay nodded slowly. "Perhaps, but we have also made friends. And I think, in the end, that matters more." He stood and offered her his hand. "Come, let me take you to your quarters. Tomorrow will be a busy day." Nari took his hand and let him help her up. As they walked, she asked, "What happens tomorrow?" Tay smiled. "Tomorrow, 3 more species are asking for our help. It seems the galaxy is finally waking up." Behind them, through the window, the stars continued their slow dance. And somewhere in the dark, a new future was being born. 6 months after Velos 4, the Karan Empire struck back. Mira Station was a trading hub at the crossroads of 12 major shipping routes. Thousands of merchants, travelers, and families passed through its corridors every day. It was neutral ground, protected by ancient treaties that even the most aggressive empires had always respected. The Karan did not care about treaties anymore. Their fleet appeared without warning. 40 warships surrounded the station and demanded surrender. When the station's administrators tried to negotiate, the Karan fired on the communication tower. The message was clear. This was not a negotiation. This was revenge. Captain Wu was on Myra Station when the attack began. He had come to pick up medical supplies for a refugee colony. His ship, the Dandelion, was docked at Bay 7. It had no weapons. It could not fight, but Wu was not thinking about fighting. He was thinking about the thousands of people trapped on the station. Families, children, innocent beings who had nothing to do with Velos 4. "How many human ships are docked here?" he asked Jin. She checked her screen. 7, including us. "Contact them. All of them. Tell them to meet me at the central hub in 1 hour." Jin stared at him. "Captain, what are you planning?" Wu looked out the viewport at the Karan fleet. 40 warships, each one capable of destroying the Dandelion 100 times over. There was no way to win this fight, but maybe winning was not the point. "I'm planning to buy time," he said. "Earth is sending a fleet. Admiral Bora herself is coming. But they need hours to get here. We have to hold until they arrive." "Hold?" Jin's voice cracked. "With 7 cargo ships?" "With whatever we have." Wu turned to face her. "Jin, I'm not asking you to die. If you want to take an escape pod and leave, I won't stop you. But I'm staying. These people need help, and I'm the only one here who can give it." Jin was quiet for a long moment. Then she shook her head. "I'm not leaving, Captain. Someone has to keep this old ship running. Might as well be me." Wu smiled. "Thank you." The meeting at the central hub was short and desperate. 7 human captains. 7 small ships. None of them were military vessels. None of them had been designed for combat. But all of them had crews who were willing to try. "Here's the plan," Wu said. "Jin is going to patch together a defense grid using our navigation systems and some stolen Karan codes. It won't stop them, but it might confuse them long enough to slow their assault. Meanwhile, we evacuate civilians to the inner sections of the station. The deeper they are, the safer they'll be. And then," one of the captains asked, "then we hold. We block corridors. We set up barricades. We do whatever it takes to keep the Karan from reaching the civilians. With what? We don't have weapons." Wu looked around the room. "We have hands. We have tools. We have medkits. And we have something the Karan don't have. We have people who actually care whether these civilians live or die." He opened a channel to the entire station. "This is Captain Wu of the Dandelion. The Kharan Empire has attacked Mira Station. Help is coming, but it will take time. Until then, we need to protect each other. All civilians, please evacuate to the central hub. All humans, if you can help, we need you now. Doctors, engineers, anyone who can hold a tool or carry a stretcher. This is our fight, and we will not run from it. The response was immediate. Humans emerged from every corner of the station. Merchants left their shops. Teachers left their classes. Travelers left their ships. They gathered at the barricades, armed with whatever they could find: pipes, wrenches, medical kits. Fire extinguishers. It was not an army. It was a crowd of ordinary people who had decided to stand. Day was there too, his camera broadcasting everything to the galaxy. "This is Day, reporting live from Mira Station," he said. His voice was steady even as explosions shook the walls. "The Kharan Empire has attacked a neutral trading hub. Thousands of civilians are trapped, and a handful of humans are trying to protect them. This is what we do. We do not run. We do not hide. When there is a line to hold, we hold it." The Kharan breached the outer sections first. Their soldiers were trained and well armed. They expected easy victory. Instead, they found humans blocking every corridor, fighting with tools instead of weapons, dragging the wounded to safety, refusing to give ground. For 3 hours, the humans held. They lost ground slowly, meter by meter. People fell. People bled. But no one ran. Then the human fleet arrived. Admiral Bora was 55 years old. She had retired 10 years ago, convinced that her fighting days were over. But when the call came, she had answered without hesitation. Now she stood on the bridge of the battleship Horizon and looked at the Kharan fleet blocking her path. "Open a channel," she said. "Channel open. Kharan vessels. This is Admiral Bora of the Human Defense Fleet. You have attacked a neutral station and threatened civilian lives. You have 30 seconds to withdraw." The Kharan commander laughed. "You think you can threaten us? Your fleet is half the size of ours." Bora's expression did not change. 25 seconds. "We will destroy you." 15 seconds. "You are bluffing." 5 seconds. The channel went silent. Bora waited. The 30 seconds passed. "All ships," she said calmly. "Open fire." The battle was brutal. Human ships were smaller and fewer, but they fought with a desperation the Kharan had never seen. They protected each other. They sacrificed themselves to save their allies. They refused to retreat, even when the odds turned against them. And slowly, impossibly, they began to win. The Kharan commander ordered a retreat. His fleet, damaged and demoralized, fled into deep space. Mira Station was saved. When Wu finally lowered his makeshift weapon, his hands were shaking. Around him, humans and aliens embraced each other. Some were crying. Some were laughing. All of them were alive. Nari found him standing near a shattered window, staring out at the stars. "You did it," she said. "You saved them." Wu shook his head. "We all did it. Every single person who chose to stand instead of run. That's what saved them." Nari looked at him for a long moment. Then she asked the question she had asked once before. "Why? Why do you fight for strangers?" Wu thought about his answer. About all the things he had seen and done in the past 6 months. About the old Volosian woman who had cried tears of hope. About the children he had carried to safety. About the look on Jin's face when she had refused to leave him. "Because someone has to start," he said finally. "And once humans start something, we don't stop." Nari smiled. It was the first time he had seen her smile. "Then I think," she said, "the galaxy is in very good hands." 1 year had passed since the dandelion first appeared above. Velos 4. 1 year since humanity stopped watching and started acting. And now the galaxy was different. The Koran Empire had collapsed. Their defeat at Mira Station had broken something inside them. Other species, inspired by humanity's example, had begun to resist. Trade partners had abandoned them. Allies had turned away. The empire that had once terrorized a dozen worlds now sat at the negotiating table, weak and humbled, begging for peace. Velos 4 was being rebuilt. Human engineers worked beside Velosian farmers to repair the damage. New crops grew in soil that had been poisoned. Children played in villages that had been abandoned. Life was returning to a world that had almost died. And in the great chamber of the Galactic Assembly, something unprecedented was about to happen. Every seat was filled. Representatives from 1,000 species had gathered for the annual summit. But this year was different. This year, everyone knew that history was being made. Ambassador Yuna walked slowly to the speaking platform. She was old now, older than she had ever expected to become. Her hair was white. Her hands trembled, but her eyes were clear and bright. "Fellow delegates," she said. Her voice was soft but carried to every corner of the chamber. "I have served humanity in this assembly for 35 years. I have watched. I have waited. I have hoped that one day our species would be seen as equals." She paused and looked around the room. "That day has come, but not because of anything I did. It came because ordinary humans decided to act when I was still hoping. It came because a cargo captain named Wu flew an unarmed ship into a war zone. It came because a journalist named Day told the truth when everyone else stayed silent. It came because people I have never met chose courage over comfort." She smiled, and tears glistened in her eyes. "I am retiring today. My work is done, but I leave you in good hands." She turned and gestured to someone waiting at the side of the chamber. "I present to you the new human ambassador, my successor, the man who started all of this." Tay walked to the platform. He was older than he had been a year ago. There was gray in his hair now and new lines around his eyes. But he stood straight and tall, and when he looked at the assembly, there was no fear in his face. The chamber fell silent. Every eye was on him. "For 80 years, Tay began, humanity watched. We sat in the back row and observed your debates. We learned your languages, your customs, your politics. We were told we were too young to participate, too weak to matter, too small to make a difference." He paused and let the words hang in the air. "Perhaps you were right. We were young. We were weak. We were small. But we learned something in those 80 years of silence. We learned that the galaxy does not change because powerful species command it. The galaxy changes because anyone, decides to act." His voice grew stronger. "We did not have the largest fleet. We did not have the strongest weapons. We did not have the wealth or the influence of the great powers. But we had something else. We had the willingness to try. We had the courage to fail. We had the stubbornness to keep going, even when everyone told us to stop." He looked directly at the Terali delegate, who had once dismissed humanity as insignificant. "You asked us what we thought we could accomplish. One small species against an empire. One cargo ship against a fleet. The answer is simple. We accomplished hope. We showed the galaxy that change was possible. And once people believe change is possible, they start making it happen." He turned to face the full assembly. "Today, I do not stand here as a representative of a minor species. I stand here as an equal. Not because we demanded respect. Not because we threatened or bargained or begged. We earned it. One life saved at a time. One line held at a time. One act of courage at a time." The chamber was absolutely silent. The Koran Empire attacked Myra Station because they wanted to show the galaxy that humanity could be crushed. They wanted to prove that our example meant nothing. Instead, they proved the opposite. They showed everyone that when humans commit to something, we do not stop. We do not surrender. We do not give up. His voice softened. I do not know what the future holds. I do not know if the galaxy will continue to change or if old habits will return. But I know this. Humanity will be here, watching when we must, acting when we can, standing with anyone who needs us. That is who we are. That is who we have always been. He stepped back from the platform. Thank you. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the Velosian delegation rose to their feet. Then the Osik, then the Rolani. One by one, species across the chamber stood until the entire assembly was on its feet. They did not clap. That was not their custom. But they stood in silence, and in that silence was more respect than any applause could have given. The vote that followed was unanimous. Humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Assembly, a permanent seat on the council, an equal voice among the stars. When Tay walked back to his seat, it was no longer in the back row. It was in the front, among the great powers of the galaxy. Hannah was waiting for him there. Her eyes were red from crying. You did it, she whispered. We all did it, he said. Every single one of us. That night, on a station far from the assembly, the heroes of the past year gathered together. Captain Wu and Jin, General Sung, Day with his camera finally turned off. Nari, the Velosian refugee who had become a symbol of hope. Admiral Bora, still in her uniform. And Q, the young hacker who had helped spread the truth. They sat together in a small room and watched Tay's speech on a screen. When it ended, Jin raised a glass. To the ones who stopped watching, she said. Wu smiled and raised his own glass and started acting. They drank together in comfortable silence. Outside the window, the stars burned bright against the endless dark. The same stars that had watched humanity struggle and suffer and grow. The same stars that would watch whatever came next. Nari looked at the humans around her. These strange, stubborn, beautiful beings who had changed her life and the lives of millions. She still did not fully understand them. Perhaps she never would, but she understood one thing. They had taught the galaxy something important. Something that could never be UNTAUGHT. Change was possible. Hope was real. And all it took was someone willing to take the first step. Somewhere out there, on 1,000 worlds, beings of every shape and species looked up at those same stars. And for the first time in a very long time, they felt something stir inside them. Not fear, not despair, not the tired acceptance of things that could not be changed to something else, something that felt like the beginning of everything.